everybody. Nice to see you all. And in fact, my friend, she, yesterday was your birthday. Our friend Beliang Hong, who has been a leader in the AA and HPI community for a long time. And so we wish you, well, some of us sang you happy birthday yesterday, but just know that she is just plugging away. So diversity hope is in the house. And this convention has been about multiracial diversity and speakers from AOC to Doug Enhoff. We are the big tent. This is the democracy convention, not just the Democratic convention, but democracy convention, because democracy is on the line this year. And in Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, we have not only a diverse team, but a team that has empathy and that cares about all of us and that doesn't just care about themselves. And so the choices are so clear. And come on, you guys, you know, you're sitting there looking at me going like, where's the energy, you guys? Come on. Are we? That is more like it, because that is what it's going to take for us to win this election. And when we all heard the Obamas, I tell you, you know, I was watching, for example, the Supreme Court, this out-of-control Supreme Court majority, and they were deciding the affirmative action case, and I was really paying attention to what they were going to do. This is the affirmative action case that involved Harvard and North Carolina, I believe it was. And I pretty much knew what they were going to do, but when Michelle Obama said, we are not the recipients of the affirmative action of inherited wealth, we have a Supreme Court that said that is okay. But when we try to level the playing field and provide affirmative action for everybody else, they say that's unconstitutional. You know, it's like, what the heck? This is why we need Supreme Court reform, but that's a whole other topic and another caucus. This is the AA NHPI caucus, the fastest growing minority group, racial group, I would say, in the country. And when we organize and when we vote, we are heard. And that's what we're doing. That's what we have to do in this race, this election. So with Kamala, I served with her for 4 years on the Judiciary Committee, and it was me, Cory Booker, and Kamala. The three of us sat next to each other. There was a lot of nonverbal communication among us. We would pass notes to each other, and Kamala framed us as the POCs on that committee. People of color. Yes. And somebody contacted my office, said, do they make them all sit together like that? It goes to show that on that Judiciary Committee, one of the most contentious, important committees, I would say, in the Senate, it took a long time for POCs to get on that committee, but I was so happy when Kamala and Cory came, because for a couple of years, I was it, you know? So I did use my voice, but it was so much fun, and I still remember, of course, of, you know, watching Kamala. I was always so delighted to see Kamala set up her questions, pin Bill Barr down, where he said, I'm struggling with the word suggest, when we were trying to talk about how important the independence of the Department of Justice was, and she asked him, has President Trump or anybody in the executive branch suggested that you investigate anybody? And there was this long pause, and he says, I'm struggling with the word suggest. See, that's Kamala. She would pin them down, and they would go, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to say? And then she moved on, because she says, well, obviously, you know, I mean, like, how about hint? Can you understand hint? Okay, and then with Kavanaugh, that question, I am paraphrasing a little bit. When we talk about the freedom of choice, that's one of the many freedoms that Kamala fights for. Freedom of choice, freedom to vote, freedom to be safe from gun violence, but freedom of choice. And she asked Brett Kavanaugh, is there any law that forces a man to be limited in what he does with his body? And he sat there going, I don't really understand what you're talking about. Yes. I really enjoyed watching Kamala in action, but that is what she brings to this election. And when I heard President Biden say we need to send the prosecutor to the White House, not the felon, I could relate. Couldn't you? Okay, so this is the team that remember during COVID, and they brought us out of that horrible pandemic and all of the attacks on AA and HPIs in our community. And Chuck Schumer came to me and said, Maisie, you have the anti-COVID-19, anti-hate crimes bill. We need to get that done. When I first introduced that bill in the Senate, I couldn't get a single Republican to sign on to that bill. But Chuck said, we have to get that bill done. And by the end of when we voted on that bill, and the last person to try to weaken that bill was Ted Cruz. He was on the floor of the Senate. He had an amendment. We fought that back. It was the first bipartisan bill that was enacted in that legislative session. And so it did exemplify that we can get things done, you know? But the one person who didn't vote for that bill was Josh Hawley. There you go. So this is an election where all of us, and I'm glad we have a panel of AAPI and HPI leaders, we need to get all of our groups, and we have a number of groups that have come together with their agendas, but we need to come together. All of our AA and HPI groups need to come together and raise our voices in unison, because when we are united, we are heard. So I was going to quote a Stoic, Epictetus. He said, if you want something good, get the good in yourself. And that is why when we heard Michelle Obama say, you know, we need to get it done, we need to do something, I also wanted to say, do something, don't just sit on the couches, which that is a reference to you know who. So you can take that. Don't just sit on the couches, do something. Make those phone calls, talk to your neighbors, because it is all about GOTV. Get out the vote. Our community is going to do our part to make a difference. We can be the winning difference in so many local and other elections, and we need each other, and Kamala and Tim need us. And by the way, Tim, I served with Kamala for 4 years, and I consider her my friend. Tim Walz and I got elected to the U.S. House in 2006. We are the majority-making class. We enabled Nancy Pelosi to become the first female speaker in the House. So, in our country. And so Nancy Pelosi is very fond of Tim Walz. And Tim was my personal choice, although, of course, I love Mark Kelly. I serve with him now. But Tim Walz, I want to quote Tim when he said, when it comes to reproductive choice, mind your own damn business. Couldn't have said it better myself. So thank each and every one of you, because we are each going to do something to help this team and to basically save democracy in our country. Mahalo nui loa.
Thank you so much, Senator. Your words inspire all of us and get us going for the rest of this week and into the future. Yes. We have in the House Congressman Andy Kim. Soon to be Senator. Yes. Yes. Andy? Yes. So as he walks up here, I'll tell you a little bit about Andy. There's a lot that I want to talk about Andy, but one of the things why we must elect him as the next senator from New Jersey is, one, he will be the first Korean American in the Senate. Right? That's right. Actually, I believe that you will be the first Korean elected in the whole of Congress after you move over from the House, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We had to think.
Yeah, you're like.
Come on. but there's a lot that I want to talk to you about, but we have just a little time, so I want to highlight something that many of you probably have seen already. I want to recall that very awful, fateful day on January 6th. You may remember that one scene towards the end of the day, after all of that violence and all of that seditious activities by the other side. This congressman got on the floor, and I mean literally on the floor, to clean up the mess. And that is actually symbolic of his race. He's here to clean up the mess that the Republicans have left. Without further ado, Congressman.
Yeah, thank you, Val. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, no. Look, I'm really glad to be here with all of you. Thanks so much, Belle, for the kind introduction. And you know, it's so important for us to be able to make sure that we have our presence here, that we have our voice here. And so I wanted to join with all of you to be able to do that. As the senator mentioned, you know, the fastest growing demographic in the country. It's the fastest growing demographic in New Jersey. But what I'll tell you is that when I first started running for Congress 6 years ago, they said, no, there's not going to be an Asian American winning your congressional district. You know, my congressional district was 85% white, less than 3% Asian that voted for Trump. And they said, there's no way that an Asian American Democrat's going to be able to win this district. And they said, look, if you want to win a seat in Congress, why don't you move up to North Jersey where there are a lot more people that look like you? And that's what they said to me. But I said, look, like, I'm running in my district because it's my home. I'm not just shopping for a district I can win. I want to show that, you know, these people that were telling me this, and sadly some of them were Democrats, that we had to show them that, you know, do not judge me. Do not define what I am or am not capable of accomplishing simply because of the color of my skin and my last name. I am as American as anybody else. My story is not just an Asian American story, a Korean American story. It is fundamentally an American story. And I'm proud. And I'm proud that this 85% white district, less than 3% Asian, that voted for Trump twice, has now 3 times elected a Korean American Democrat to be their voice in Congress. Just a little less than a year ago, we had some challenges when it came to our senator in New Jersey, and I decided to step up to run for Senate in New Jersey. And look, I had a lot of people say, hey, look, you know, you're a nice guy and all, but there's no way you're going to be able to win a statewide race. You know, there's no way. You know, they're like, that seat, if it's going to go to a minority, it's going to go to someone who's Hispanic. And I said, look, again, don't think that I am only a voice for Asian Americans. Don't just think that I can only speak to those issues. Do not box us in. I'm tired of that. I'm tired that, you know, that people are saying, oh, look, you know, Asian Americans, we'll call on Andy when it's about something about anti-Asian hate. Yes, that's important. Yes, it's important about affirmative action and other issues that are out there. But look, what I'll say is we have something to say about everything. You know, not just about Asian American issues. We deserve a seat at the table for every single decision being made about this country because that's our position. I don't want Asian Americans just to be seen as some special interest group. You know, they only call upon us when it's something directly related to us. So look, I have to say, I have been blown away by the energy in my home state. What we've seen over the last 11 months has been a really improbable story where I can now stand before you as the Democratic nominee for the U.S. Senate. But what I'll tell you is it's not just about the next 76 days, not that I'm counting each and every one of them, but I have, you know, the hope that, you know, it's not just about winning for winning's sake. It's about what we do with it. And that's something I ask each and every one of us. I know we're here to be fired up. We got to get Kamala Harris elected. We got to make sure we're doing everything we can. But let's remember that Election Day is the starting line, not the finish line. We have a lot of work to do, a lot of things that we have to deliver for our community, the Asian American community, but also to build the kind of coalition that we need to be able to show that we are going to be a friend to others as we want them to be a friend to us. All of us working together to be able to build that. And that's what we're trying to do in New Jersey. And I want to work with you across this entire country to be able to get this done. And I'm really excited. I mean, this is the 50th anniversary of my parents immigrating to America from South Korea. This year, 50 years. After everything that they've gone through, all that they struggled through, their stories, and you know your stories in your own families. And I have to say, we're really excited in my family that we'll be able to celebrate our 50th anniversary by me becoming the next senator from New Jersey. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. Thank you, Andy. And best of luck. I know that I know we all want to see the next senator from New Jersey right here, Andy Kim. Thank you. And next I'm going to ask Amy, my treasurer, that she's part of my executive committee, to come up to introduce a whole series of very important speakers. And I'm going to leave it to Amy to start.
Good morning, Democrats. And in Hawaii, we say aloha. So aloha.
Come on, louder, guys.
Yeah. Thank you. You know, this convention is good practice for campaigning. How many people here are tired? How many are sleep deprived? How many are jet lagged? And how many have dredged up the energy to be here and will continue to this fight? Yes. You're about to hear from a series of our leaders in the Asian American, Native Hawaiian Pacific Island community. So I hope you will put on your campaign focus and energy and focus on their message. The first person I'd like to introduce is the Honorable Nera Tandon. Sorry. Oh, my typo, sorry. Nera currently serves as the Domestic Policy Advisor to President Biden. She was the Senior Advisor and Staff Secretary in the White House. She's from Bedford, Massachusetts. Graduated from UC in Los Angeles and Yale Law. My husband is Yale too. Thank you very much. Actually, I have more.
Oh, don't worry about it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Are you fired up? Fired up? Fired up? Ready to go? Who saw Barack and Michelle Obama last night? Oh my God. And I have to say, what I was thrilled by was Michelle Obama's and Barack Obama's defense of diversity. My favorite line, maybe I had a few lines or some good lines about crowd size. But I have to say the line that really stays with me is the line around people attacking diversity who have the affirmative action of generational wealth. And that's why I think it is so vital that we are all here, because the beauty of the Democratic Party is that it represents all of us. I'm so proud to be in an administration with the highest number of Asian Americans, AA, NHBI people in history. And I am so proud to be in a White House with Vice President Kamala Harris, the first daughter of an Asian immigrant who will be President of the United States. And as Hillary said, when we look through those cracks, we'll see on the other side a Kamala Harris presidency that truly represents all of us, knows our experiences, brings them to the table, and then we'll have we'll have a government that truly understands us. Not with just a Mazie Hirono, not just with a new Senator Andy Kim, but with a president who will always make sure our voices are heard. And when our community is attacked, she will use her fiery passion and prosecutorial skill to fight back. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nera. Let me bring up B.D. Wong next. Nani. I apologize. I think that Nani Coloretti is our next speaker. I apologize. I got a little bit out of order here.
So Nani Coloretti is currently the budget director of the Office of Management and Budget. Deputy director, I'm sorry. So Deputy Director Coloretti, also from Kipahulu, Maui. So, Oahu. I thought it was Maui. Okay, sorry. Aloha, come.
Aloha kakahiaka. Aloha. Good morning. How many of you stood in a line yesterday for 2 hours? I did. It was awesome. I met somebody on the subway last night as I was trying to make my way home who has been to 14 conventions. And they also stood in line for 2 hours, and they were happy to do it because they said that we are bringing the joy. We are bringing the joy. So I want to bring the joy to you today. I'm Nani Coloretti. I am here in my personal capacity. Belle Leong Hong has reminded me to tell you that. But I am someone with over 25 years in public service at the state, local, and federal levels. And so I grew up in Hawaii, on Oahu, for those of you who are tracking. I spent half my adult life in California and half in Maryland. So I'm trying to represent, all of the parts and pieces here. And I just want to say a couple quick things. First of all, Vice President Harris announced her plan for the economy last week, and I don't know if you were paying attention, but it is awesome. She is building on the progress that she has made as Vice President Harris as part of the Biden-Harris administration, and we are very, very excited about it. She's focused on affordability and on building the middle class, and that is really going to be significantly important, and for all of us to talk about that because it's going to make a difference for everyone. I want to just say something really personal about Kamala Harris, about Vice President Harris. I worked with her in San Francisco over 20 years ago when she wasn't even in elected office. She was a city attorney in San Francisco, and she basically had already been a champion for children and families. And we worked together on bringing a grant to San Francisco that took care of children who were the witnesses of abuse in their own homes. And that grant was the first of its kind program. It was actually an Office of Justice Programs program, Vanita. It was we were one of the first places in San Francisco to put that program, and actually it is now a national program. And that's the kind of work that Kamala does. She has a vision, she sees far into the future, and she fights for children and families. And she is going to fight for us. And I'll just say, we will also fight for her. And when we fight, we win. And so do not forget that. And thank you for being here. By the way, thank you for everybody doing the work, the hard work that you are doing on the ground. We are the margin of victory. So thank you for having me here today.
Well, you learn something every day. There are no titles here. So I'd like to introduce Chantel Wong next, who has Honorable Chantel Wong, who has the rank of ambassador, so I can say Ambassador Wong as well. She's probably traveled the farthest, came from Manila to join us this morning. So please, Ambassador Wong, thank you very much.
Okay, it's going to be a little bit of a policy wonkish speech. So, but good morning, everybody. It's really an honor for me to be here, with everybody in our diversity and shared commitment to a better future, both here in the U.S., but for me personally, in our ancestral homelands at the moment. This morning, I want to reflect a little bit about the accomplishments of the Biden-Harris administration, especially in the Asia-Pacific region, where I now call home. I'm from Manila, mabuhay. So we're definitely reclaiming our presence in the region where American leadership has been really missing for decades, particularly the last administration, right? First, I want to recognize the vital role that AAPIs and HPIs have been playing, including appointments like Ambassador Tai, as well as all the Labor Secretary there, yes, in various capacities. And I'm really privileged to serve alongside all of our AAPI colleagues in various capacities in state, defense, commerce, trade, and treasury. I know Vice President Harris's visit to the countries like Singapore, Vietnam, and Philippines have really strengthened the U.S. relationships and commitments to the region, and really provided deep work, economic work around security and diplomatic ties. So on an international stage, she has really championed American businesses, advocated for fair trade practices, and expanded market opportunities. Her commitment to an equitable and competitive global marketplace has really made her a key figure in administration's economic strategy. So in the Asia-Pacific region particularly, this leadership has really translated to increased collaboration on environmental sustainability and resilience. Vice President Harris has emphasized clean energy, protecting ecosystem, climate change, and whatnot. Maybe on a personal note, a little bit, because I'm running short on time, I want to reflect a little bit about Kamala Harris that I know and her impact on my life. I first came to know City Attorney Kamala Harris in San Francisco, where my parents call home. And when she ran for district attorney, I really was so inspired that I was on a GS-9 salary, so I donated meager amounts to her campaign. That was 22 years ago. On the intervening years, I've had a few opportunities to interact with her. When I finally retired from federal service, I was privileged enough to be the official photographer for the late Congressman John Lewis, crossing the Edmund Pettus Bridge every year. The Senator Harris, would come to join in those pilgrimages along other members of Congress. I've taken a lot of beautiful photos and memorable images of Senator Harris during those journeys. And when I told her, when she came to Manila, the Philippines, I told her that I had printed these photos. I've given it to the second gentleman, because he was there earlier. And then she turned to him to complain that, where are the photos? And he glared at me and he said, how dare you get me in trouble with my wife? And so I brought them along in hopes to get them to her. But when she became vice president, and I know Shekhar knows this, I really wanted to be the first, the official photographer for the first Asian American, the first black, and the first woman vice president of the United States. I wanted to document her journey. But they told me that job was taken. So I had to settle for ambassador job. But I put together a really hard portfolio. Finally, I hope that maybe I'll get a chance to do that again. So I hope that, first of all, I want to say that being first is really important. I'm the first out lesbian, open lesbian U.S. ambassador in the history. But I want to quote what Vice President Kamala Harris says about her mother. Being first is really, really important, but let me not be the last. And so we really need to do that. Thank you.
Next up, we have a welcome from my hometown, 17th Congressional District, Khanna, a frequent guest of Delwar, and the voice of our progressive young people. Come on up, bro. Woo!
Are we excited after last night? That was incredible. Let me just thank Otto Lee. Otto is, I don't know where Otto went, but he is at every DNC. He's doing an incredible job as the supervisor in my district, and I have such admiration for him. And I have so much admiration for Belle. You know, I have known Belle for decades, and she is tireless. She is committed to this caucus. She was there when there were very few Asian Americans. Let's give her a round of applause for her service to this caucus and to our party. And a couple more shout outs. I see my excellent friend, Vanita Gupta. I think she should be the Attorney General in a Harris-Walz administration. She can't say it, I can. But she's just an incredible talent, and we're lucky to have her. And Deepak Raj, what he has done with impact has been absolutely incredible. Nera Tandon, of course, a brilliant policy mind. All the policies end up, you know, some way she has a impact on them. And the last shout out to Deepa Sharma, who's been, as a young Indian American woman who's running for vice chair in California. And I'm behind her, and I hope others will support her. Look, I don't want to take up a lot of time. I wanted to tell a personal story about Vice President Harris, and then explain why this election is so important. When I was starting out, I was 27 years old, and I decided to run against a longtime Democratic incumbent, Tom Lantos, and he had supported the war in Iraq. And, you know, when you run against an incumbent in your own party, everyone moves away from you. They don't want to talk to you. They don't want to have anything to do with you. And it's a very, very hard thing. And so there was only one person back then who was elected who was willing to meet with me, and that was District Attorney Kamala Harris. And I remember going into her office, and it shows how she's tough but also open, and, you know, waited for 15 minutes, and then I go into her office, and she says, "So, Ro, you're running?" I said, "Yes." She says, "Well, can I see some literature?" I said, "We don't have any literature. I'm running against the war." She said, "Let me give you some advice. You may want to come to these meetings with some literature with your platform." And I said, "Well, you know, District Attorney Harris, I have not gotten the San Francisco Chronicle to be able to write a single article about my anti-war campaign." And she said, "Well, that's not right. You know, I don't think you're going to necessarily win, but you deserve to be covered." And she made a phone call, and the next day, the San Francisco Chronicle wrote an article about my anti-war campaign. The reason I share that story is that Vice President Harris, when she's President Harris, doesn't just look out for herself. She knows the barriers she's had to break. She knows how tough it was. Those races were not easy for her to win district attorney in San Francisco. It was not easy for her to win attorney general in California. It was not easy for her to become the senator or to become vice president. She's had to break the barriers. And so she knows that we need to break barriers to have other people have a shot, and she's going to help other people do that like she did for me. Let me end with this point. You know, J.D. Vance gave this whole speech at the Republican convention. Do you remember where he talked about this 7 generations that had this cemetery plot of land in eastern Kentucky? And he said, this is our homeland. It's not a country based on ideas. And then he said, Usha, who I know, I like, his wife, is going to be buried on this plot of land. And I'm thinking, you know, Usha Vance is Hindu American like me. Is she going to have a choice in the matter? Because, you know, I would think she'd have some choice. But, you know, what upset me about that speech is that Vance was basically implying that the longer you could trace your heritage back, the amount of generations you could trace your heritage, that somehow defined what it means to be an American. Well, you know, Vanita or Nera or myself, our parents, we can't trace our heritage back 7 generations. Neither, by the way, can Vice President Harris. But we're just as American as someone who can trace their heritage back to the Mayflower. And it was not me who was saying that. It wasn't even Obama, though he's still the best, who was saying that. It was Abraham Lincoln who said that. In 1858, back then, you had to be able to trace your heritage back to the Revolutionary War to be American. You had to be able to say that you knew someone who fought in the Revolutionary War. And Lincoln said, well, how can you be a German American? How can you be a French American if you don't have a great-great-grandfather who was in the Revolution? And so Lincoln said, every American who believes in the Constitution, who believes in the Declaration of Independence, is flesh of the flesh, blood of the blood of the American founders. My friends, we are the party of Lincoln. When we elect Kamala Harris as President of the United States, we're going to show that this country is a multiracial democracy where it doesn't matter how long your lineage is, you can be American. Everyone can be American and contribute. Let's go win in 2024. Let's elect Kamala Harris President of the United States.
You see us tap dancing up here as we change the order. I am delighted to introduce Vanita Gupta, a career civil rights attorney who was with the American Civil Liberties Union and has served a number of positions in government, including for Barack Obama.
Thanks all. So are we fired up? And are we ready to do something? I just loved the do something because as a civil rights lawyer, I'm this eternal optimist, but I also spend a lot of time agonizing and worried because that's what we do because we know that if we don't fight, we're not going to win. And just hearing Michelle Obama yesterday repeat the focus for all of us over the next 78 days, 77 days, I think, is so vitally important. I am fired up. And as a lifelong civil rights attorney who has been proud to serve as President Obama's head of the Civil Rights Division and then most recently as Associate Attorney General, the first Asian American in top 3 leadership at the Justice Department, and we won't be the last. I know, and I don't take anything for granted. When we talk about a multiracial democracy, that is exactly what is at stake in this election. And when I headed up the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights, and Nera and I and many other leaders were doing everything we could to protect the multiracial democracy in the Trump administration, we worked with Senator Harris. We worked with her on voting rights legislation, on LGBTQ rights, on the Equality Act. We worked with her to protect our census. We worked with her to ensure that our courts, our judges would actually be impartial arbiters and not partisan hacks, people who would actually not overturn decades of precedent the way that we've seen recently in Dobbs, in the affirmative action case, in the Chevron case. There is too much at stake, and she has been a fighter for all of us from the day that she entered public service. We worked with her when she was vice president. We've been working with her. I was very proud to be able to chair the Justice Department's Reproductive Rights Task Force And Vice President Harris has been our leader in pushing back and fighting back so that women in America, we have the ability to make decisions for our own selves about our body and our health care. And we are not going to let that go. She has traveled the country, meeting with people all over, physicians, patients, women all over, activists, men who are joining this, and we know what is at stake. And so I just want to say in closing, when John Lewis, the mighty John Lewis, said democracy is not a state, it is an act. And when Michelle Obama says do something, we know we've got to knock on all of our doors. We have to talk to our family members, make sure that they are registered to vote, that they are going to show up to vote. I'm going to be working with an amazing team of lawyers to try to do everything we can to ensure a safe, fair, and free election. We should not take for granted that there aren't going to be a lot of shenanigans played with people's right to vote and the ability to have their vote counted, and it will be on all of us showing up at county commissioner meetings, making sure our secretaries of state understand that they cannot take away the right to vote, which has been so hard fought and hard achieved. And we're going to need to donate. We're going to need to sign up as poll workers and volunteer. Elections in our democracy, we are the ones to protect it. So I just want to say I am so glad to be here in this room, to be able to fight for our multiracial democracy. It is going to take all of us. Keep going.
Thank you, Vanita. I now want to bring up my brother, Delwar Saeed. I could spend a whole hour introducing Delwar, but he and I got to know each other quite a number of years ago, back to 2006. We joined forces to basically do things together as Asian American and Pacific Islander as a group, as opposed to each diverse group separately, so that together we can have stronger forces. May I present to you the Honorable Delwar Saeed.
Thank you so much, Belle, and thank you, Otto, and everyone, and it's great to be here. Speaking of origins, today is the day 33 years ago I came to America from Pakistan as a student. And I must tell you, I never imagined that I'll be standing here at this stage speaking to AAPI leaders from across the country at a convention. 3 decades later, a few of us got together in a boba tea shop, Shekhar, you remember, in LA, and we endorsed President Biden, January of 2020, and I answered the call to service. Now, I think many of you know, my journey has been a hard one. Not just the recent years, but also the aftermath of 9/11. And people often ask me, why you persisted? I persisted because our backgrounds, our ethnicities, our race, our faith should never, ever be a factor in what you get to do in this country of ours. And that's why I persisted. And I persisted because representation matters. You've heard it from my colleagues, it matters. We bring our lived experiences as Asian Americans, as entrepreneurs, as immigrants, as parents, and all of that helps us inform policy that better reflects the aspirations of our diverse country. Let me share with you a couple of words about the Vice President. I met the Vice President in San Francisco in 2009, early 2009. She was preparing to launch her campaign for Attorney General of California. And I was one of her first organizers in the tech community in Silicon Valley. And we went on to win, and I was advising her on tech policy. Just most recently, she asked me to join her when she visited Detroit, Michigan. I had a chance to spend some time with her on Air Force Two, which is very, very cool. And soon she'll have Air Force One. And watching her speak in Detroit was absolutely electric. But here's a conversation that I had with her recently during Ramadan in the White House that really, really showed her heart. And it reminded me why I got behind her all those years ago. I don't need to tell you that this Ramadan was a very difficult time for the Muslim community. Seeing images of death and destruction every day tore at all of us. and a few Muslim appointees had gotten together in the White House with the president and the vice president to open our fast. The way the VP came to us and spoke to us about the importance of serving and our work at this time, I would never forget. Her warmth, her compassion, and her humility is one that I cannot wait to see when she is our next president. So we are a margin of victory. We know there's a community, but it's going to take a lot of work. And someone who's been organizing, let me just remind you, there are a lot of folks that we still have to engage in our communities. So it will take all of our work to make sure we turn out the vote and make sure that the Vice President and Governor Walz is our next President and Vice President of the United States. So thank you for having me, and thank you, Belle.
Next, I want to take a point of personal privilege to introduce my Lieutenant Governor, the pride of Maryland, Aruna Miller. Would you please come up? She's the first Asian American Lieutenant Governor in Maryland, and her administration appointed 6 cabinet members.
Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Aruna Miller, and I come from the great state of Maryland. But first, I want to recognize this incredible leadership here at DNC. Can we just start with the chair, Belle Leong Hong, right? Now, what we say about Belle in the state of Maryland, she's just like our state. Small but mighty and powerful, right? That's who she is. And I also want to thank Amy and Keith and Otto for all your leadership as well. Thank you so much. And thank you for every one of you that is here today. And yes, are we excited about Kamala Harris and Tim Walz? Yes, absolutely. Now, everybody's sharing a story about Kamala Harris, and I want to share with you mine. And it just happened last week. President Biden and Vice President Harris came to visit Maryland, and they talked about how they are reducing the prescription drugs prices and all, right? So we were there at a rally, and it was wonderful. I had an opportunity to stand in line and take a photo with the president and the vice president. And any of you that's been in those photo lines, you know they give you 5 seconds, right? You go in there, you smile, and you leave, right? So in this case, I went up and I said to the president, I said, Mr. President, today is my mom's birthday. And he looks at me and he goes, what's your mom's cell number? And I look back at him and I'm like, I have no idea because it's in my cell and I don't have my cell with me. You took it away from me. I didn't memorize my mom's number. Oh my God, shame on me, right? So I go rushing back. He tells his staff, why don't you get the LG's mom's number? But I go find my phone and I'm desperately, like, I pick up the phone. I'm calling my mom in the back of the room and she's not picking up the phone. Right? I'm like, oh my God, this is a horrible moment that she wouldn't pick up the phone. Call my daughter, who happens to be visiting. She always picks up on the first ring. She doesn't pick up either, right? By the 5th ring, I'm about to hang up, and in a breathless way, she picks up. She goes, yes, Mommy, what do you want? I go, get Amama. That's what we call grandma in India, right? And I go, where is she? And she goes, she's taking a shower. It's in the middle of the day. It's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. My mom never does this. And I go get Amama out of the shower right now. I go, but do not tell her that the President of the United States wants to wish her happy birthday. So she goes over there. Literally, my mom is in the tub, and she's like, Amama, somebody wants to talk to you. And my mom's all confused. She gets on the phone, and she's like, hello? And so I'm rushing back to where the picture was taken. And Secret Service is saying, ma'am, you're not allowed to go back. You can't go back. I said, no, you don't understand. The president and the vice president said they want to talk to my mom. So they let me go back in. President Biden picks up the phone and he goes, "Hello, Hema, this is Joe Biden, and I want to wish you a happy birthday." Right? But it gets better. So my mom, then he puts her on the speaker. My mom, you could imagine, is a total hot mess at this point, right? She starts talking to him about reincarnation on the phone. She's like, "Oh, Mr. President, you know, you and I must have known each other in our last life. That is why you're calling me." And I'm like, "Oh my God, what is she saying to the president right now?" And then Kamala gets on the phone and she's like, "Auntie, we just want to say it is so wonderful to see your daughter and how successful she's been." And my mom responds by saying, "You are much, much better." And I'm like, "Is this happening or what?" And Vice President Harris looks at me and she's like, "I understand completely what you're going through." She knows our Asian parents, right? They want to make sure we keep elevating ourselves as much as we can. But I'm just sharing that story, and then it gets better. President Biden and Vice President Harris sing happy birthday to my mom, everybody there. These are the type of individuals the two of them are. This is the type of individual Vice President Harris is. It's about how she makes you feel. You know, it's the compassion, the empathy, the engagement of seeing you as an individual, not just an object walking right through and taking a photo with her. This is who we're voting for, folks. This is what is the promise of America, right? A woman who is South Asian and Jamaican that is about to break some glass ceilings. That's who we're voting for. And I just want to say to every one of you, thank you for everything that you do in our great state, in the great states that you come from and our nation. And I just want to recognize a few people that have been battling this fight for all of us so they can elevate us, including Deepak Raj of Impact, Nera Tandon, let's give it up for her. Yes, she's been fighting the good fight. And at Shaker Nursing Home, thank you so much. And to all of you, thank you. Let's go make sure we get Kamala Harris and Tim Walz elected, okay?
May I now have the pleasure of bringing out B.D. Wong. Many of you know him as the Tony Award winner and Dream, the Drama Desk, and a lot of other awards that I don't think I have enough time to mention, but you also have seen him in many, many diverse roles. But more than that, he is an extremely active supporter of all of our courses and all our API community. Would you please come on up? Yes. And he's my cousin.
I think we are cousins, but I'm going to call you Auntie Belle. Hi. Well, I can't compete with that story. I can't compete. But it did remind me very briefly of a story that about my mom and Barack Obama. My mom and I were invited to the White House for the state dinner in 2013, and my mom got in her head that she wanted to bring Barack Obama Terra chips that my uncle had, Hawaiian Terra chips that my uncle had made. She said, "Let's bring Barack these chips." And I said, "Mother, you can't bring the president food. They'll never let you anywhere near the president with food." Anyway, my mother and I had an incredible trip to the White House one time in 2013, and that reminded me of that. Thank you very much. I am so really humbled and proud and amazed to be here with you all. The people in this room are doing all the good work and all the hard work, and I'm just me. But I'm happy to be here. I was invited as a what's called an honored guest of the campaign, and I took the opportunity to have what I thought would be a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and I was not wrong. Well, I'm never wrong, but that's, and I was not wrong. I mean, you all know, I mean, I went to bed last night thinking, what could I ever say to this group? What kind of remarks could I ever make here today that would compare to the majesty and the scope and the vision and the humor and the tenacity and all the incredible work that we're halfway through, people. We're only halfway through this incredible experience. And the inspiration that I have personally gotten from the speakers and from people that I revere in my life, you know, these iconic people, is incredible. And we must use this whole time together to be extremely galvanized. I am also here as a representative of the candidate as a presidential surrogate, and I have toured this country going to visit volunteers all around in the swing states. And I'm here to tell you that this race is incredibly close. We were in last Saturday in North Hills near Pittsburgh, where Biden won in 2020 by an average of 5 votes per precinct. And this is the general gist of what my experience has been as a surrogate, going to these really narrow margin places and watching these incredible volunteers more and more galvanized as the campaign has reached gained momentum. But nevertheless, they are dedicated and they are incredibly they are just incredibly ready and willing and ready to do this work. Now, I am here also to say we are an incredibly interesting and influential community in this election. We are, of course, it's always been said, the fastest growing group, and we are also poised to be very influential in this election, particularly in the swing states where there are Asian American communities, Vegas and Virginia, I mean not Vegas, but Nevada and Virginia in particular. And whatever it is that you're doing, we can, do something, and when we fight, we win. These mantras we must really take them to heart. I want to say one last thing that is really important to me. It's a small thing. It's not mentioned very often. And that is the it's based, first of all, we are, in order to have a caucus at the DNC, right, you have to represent at least 2% of the constituency of the membership, right? And so we collectively, in all of our incredible nationalities and different cultures, come together. We are the Asian American community, AANHPI community, and there are often kind of debates about how we feel diluted in our cultures and are being lumped together. But it is in these moments when we are the most powerful, when we are able to affect change through solidarity and through our numbers, and that we must embrace that. And we always must find our way to be individuals and to celebrate our individual cultures while we are doing that. Having said that, there's also something incredible happening, and that is that we have and by the way, the dream is not really happening on Thursday, Auntie Belle. The dream is happening in November, and we are making sure of that. And Thursday, to me, is the poetic representation of that dream happening, right? But that is the work that we need to do. But when that dream happens, it is the first woman, the first African American, the first South Asian, Asian American president, as we all know, as has been said many, many times. She is the representative, Vice President Harris is the representative of so many groups that have been underrepresented in our lives, that it is really hard to continue to list them all. And I feel like, well, let me just tell you where I'm coming from. At my son's bar mitzvah, my son is a multiracial kid. And at my son's bar mitzvah, I told him in front of everybody, you are not half of anything, you are all of everything. And so it is astonishing to me that we characterize her easily as the first black president, the first woman president. A lot of times the South Asian part, the Asian American part, gets left off the list. And we really need to own it, and we need to be really proud of it, and we need to perpetuate it and remind people that that is one of the major, this is an incredible thing. And I think in our kind of non-confrontational Asian Americanness, we kind of like let it slide a little bit, but let's really lean into it. We're gonna have a freaking Asian American president. No less or no more than she is an African American president. No less or no more. So let's make sure we celebrate that, and we let people know how we celebrate that, and we don't do that halfway. I thank you so much for having me here. I appreciate you know, this whole thing of they've been reconfiguring the order of the speakers here all day. Like it's like a Chinese wedding here. It's like crazy. And so I'm just, and they've been apologetic about changing the order, and I'm just so thankful to be here. I don't care at all. It's just wonderful. Auntie Belle, you're doing incredible work. Love you all. Please do something.
I'm going to ask the senior women panel to come up, but in the meantime, allow me to introduce my senator-to-be, Angela Alsobrooks. Very quick. She will say some very, very quick remarks. Because we've got
Is it still? Oh, it's still morning. Good morning, everyone. And I hope that the joy of last night is still with you. I want to thank Chair Leon Hong for inviting me this morning, and thank her for all of her leadership. Thank all of you all as well. I also want to say to Senator Lamb, good morning, and thank him. You know, we are in a joyous time where Kamala Harris is bringing us together and reintroducing joy into our country. And by extension, also reintroducing the concept. I love what was just said a moment ago about us not being half of anything, but all of everything. Isn't that true of all of us? And it is the very concept of inclusion and love and togetherness that really makes us who we are. And so in this moment, I am running for U.S. Senate in the state of Maryland. I'm so grateful to be able to represent what will become the 51st vote. We know that having the majority in the Senate is going to be especially important to be able to get our agenda across. We know that whoever has the majority controls the agenda for our country. Maryland is in play. We're very solidly one of the states that Mitch McConnell has selected, believing that they can turn. So I thank you all for having me. I ask you so much for your support. And you know what? Let's go win. November 5th, we're going to be successful and move our country forward. Thank you.
Next, I'm incredibly proud to introduce a panel of senior women, and they will, senior in rank. I'm going to ask Erica Moritsugu to be the lead in this, and I'm going to let her introduce the Fireside chat.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Woohoo! Woo!
thank you to this amazing ladies. They are, I can't say their titles, but they're the highest ranking women in our administration, and we're so delighted that we had the opportunity to talk to them. Next, I'd like to bring up Maulik Pancholi. Very, very quick introduction. Maulik is an award-winning actor, author, and activist. He's a longtime advocate for the Asian American and Pacific Islander LGBTQIA communities, plus community. He's a co-founder of the anti-bullying nonprofit Act to Change organization, and a very, very dear friend. Please come on up, Maulik. Maulik, thank you. Probably this is the quickest introduction you've ever got.
Oh my gosh, no. Thank you. Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you so much, Belle, for inviting me to be a part of this. I have been so inspired. You all, Ambassador Tai, if you're still here, this is my first convention as well. How many people are here for the first time? I am exhausted. I am so energized. Listen, I'm gonna keep this brief, and and hopefully really personal. As an actor, as an author, as an activist, I think of myself as a storyteller. And I know that having our stories in the world fosters belonging. It cements the idea that our story is the American story. I have been immersed in anti-bullying work for Asian American and Pacific Islander youth for nearly a decade now. I can tell you firsthand that the Trump administration's anti-Muslim, anti-immigrant, anti-Asian American and Pacific Islander rhetoric and policies, they told a story too. That story was that we do not belong, that we are other. And what did we see because of that? We saw a huge uprise in violence, bullying, and hate towards our communities. We are not going back to that. I am now the author of 2 novels for young readers, The Best at It and Nikhil Out Loud. So I am literally putting our stories into the world. Both of my novels feature South Asian American LGBTQ teens as lead characters. These are the books that I never had as a kid when I was growing up, and I needed so desperately. And my greatest joy is that both of these books are now part of school curriculums all across this country. Thank you. But they have also been banned in many parts of this country simply for featuring LGBTQ AAPI characters as lead characters. Recently, a school board in Pennsylvania voted 9-0 to cancel my visit to a school in their district. Thank you. That meeting was recorded. It caught them saying, "He's a homosexual. We don't want his lifestyle in our school." And this is verbatim. He talks about anti-bullying, empathy, and inclusion, and that's what's concerning. You can imagine where these board members lay politically. One of them was Moms for Liberty. But here's my takeaway for all of you. When that community heard these words, 1,000 people showed up to the next school board meeting, and after 6 emotional hours, they forced that board to reverse its decision. It was a narrow margin of victory, 5-4, but they did it. These were some of the same people who had voted this school board into place in the first place, but when they were an informed electorate, they made their voices heard. So here's my takeaway. We are the margin of victory in this election. We can inform our friends and our family about what is at stake in this election, not only for the presidency, but at the state and local level as well. Vice President Harris has spoken out against the banning of books. She believes our stories belong in schools. She is fighting for women's rights, for AAPI rights, for LGBTQ rights. A Harris-Walz presidency ensures that our story continues to be the American story. Thank you all for letting me be here today.
Thank you all, and thank you all for your patience and your endurance. Next, I would like to bring up Irene Natividad and the panel on money. Irene is I shouldn't have to read her bio, but quickly, is a recognized leader for women in the United States and globally, chair of the Globe Women Research and Education Institute. Most importantly, she's my friend. There you go. Bye. Bye. We need to go. Let you do your thing.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful program.
When we talk money, the room empties. Please, everybody, take your seat while they're making themselves comfortable at the table. Let me just say, this is my 10th convention. My first one was in 1984, which was the first time that the Asia Pacific Caucus had a presence at the convention that we fought for. Hey, Geraldine Ferraro said hello to 30 of us who formed the caucus at that time, for which I served as vice chair. This now has grown thanks to Mabel. Not all of you are in this room, but for those of you who are in this room, thank you. You are the ones who make the votes happen, and you are the ones who make the money happen. But today, I want to introduce to you and to hear from the 3 organized and probably the largest political action committees that have made our financial presence happen. And you say, well, why is that important? Because money is the mother's milk of politics. And if you think you're going to run for office or get the vote out or print messages without money, then you're not in the right place. So, let me begin. From the farthest right, I have Albert Shin, who is the chairman of Asian American Action Fund, which is now over 30 years old. I mean, people don't realize that. 30 years old. He is from Texas, and he also, in his other life, does business development for Verizon. Next to him, somebody many of you also probably know well, Shekhar. We only say Shekhar. Forget the rest. He is the founder and chairman of Impact. And he has worked... Sorry, hungover. Shekhar is the head of the multi-layered Victory Fund that many of you have heard from. He is CEO of his own company. He heads up an investment fund, and his biggest passion is affordable housing, to which he has dedicated himself. And then next to him is Deepak Raj, who is the founder and chair of Impact. Yes, he also heads up this other council. It is the Center for Economic Policy at Columbia University, which he and his wife founded together. So please welcome this group. First, would you welcome them, please? And each in turn will tell you briefly, gentlemen, say what is unique about each of your political action committees, and we'll begin with Al at the end.
Thank you, Aruna, for your gracious introduction. Yeah, Albert Shen, I'm with AAA Fund. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding of how taxes work, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. We are a lobbyist registered PAC, federal PAC, and our main focus is actually getting new Asian Americans into Congress. So that, and as AOC said the other day, we have to bring Congress to everything else we can get about that. So we're endorsing candidates
New York Times even cited it, and we have matured financially. 3 of you. We have 2.5 months left, as Michelle said last night. So, what do you think we should be doing? Not theoretically, but immediately, as established PACs. Go ahead, Albert.
In the world of PACs and money, what we need is money at the end of the day.
Yes.
In our observation, and Irene too is on our board, our founder, Paul Chow, is sitting way back there, so I don't want him to wave hi. I got us into this. But it is the blood of what makes politics work, and it is the fuel that drives the winners of what we need to do. And what we need is people really to open up their pocketbooks. A lot of what is focused upon the White House, but as we said, we can't forget Congress, because without Congress, we cannot get the appointments we need, we cannot get the confirmations of like Julie Sue or Catherine Tyne through the Senate. Those are such critical races, and we're specifically trying to work the innards of D.C., supporting Jackie Rosen, supporting Maria Cantwell, all these other API candidates, who all have large API populations in their states and their districts. So money is really whether it's $5, $10, we each have different compliance limits, but that is what we're trying to educate people on. So we need people to educate on what PACs are, but really is the money side. And we have seen, I see things within the DC circuit, just the amount of money that it takes to get something to happen, especially when it comes to appointments for legislation and policy, or even funding for all the programs that important us, that our appointees sit in all these agencies so they can distribute that money to districts that impact our community. So without that money, like I said, $5, $10, $20, with super PACs have much different limits. Our limit is $5,000 tax. So that is really what we need people to really get understanding is. Open your pockets, tell your friends, whether it's $5, a dollar, it makes a big difference on every level in terms of helping us get key congressional members and get their support.
Thanks, Al.
Sure. Well, there's 2 things you can do. You can donate money. You can donate money to a campaign. You can donate to any of the organizations up here or any of the nonprofits that do the advocacy work in your communities. You can vote. I think the first thing every one of us has to simply commit to is everyone in this room committed to vote for Kamala Harris and all right, so that is, by the way, the least thing you can do. Like, that's baseline, that's minimum. Donation above that. And the third is organize. And I don't think any of you understand the power of organizing, just given the fact that we are from community. One of the reasons that our board is so pan-Asian and so diverse, which makes it sometimes hard to get things done, I would say. But it is because if you're from community, you talk to community. So if every single person you know and I know gets to 5 people, by the way, that means we only need 50,000 people to get organized between now and the next 30 days. We use influencers, particularly younger people. We use social media. That becomes an organizing tool. But, Malik works on bullying work. He's talking to hundreds of young people. Khanna's out on campuses talking to young students. Be a good listener, but organize, and organize. And at the end of the day, Irene, Albert, we all know that the result is in the voice. And the second thing I would say to you is just to be very sober about this election. And I think if any of you were listening to the speeches last night, you heard it's going to be close. While some of the dynamics have changed, the fundamentals of the arithmetic of the electoral college have not changed. I.e., you have to win the blue wall and you have to win one more state, you have to win Nebraska. But what do we actually want? Our first, frankly, the first person who's biracial, the first immigrant to win this election by a lot. And it isn't just to win by a lot for the sake of winning by a lot, it's because that's when we can turn to the other side and repudiate their lies and their poison and say, we won the damn election, now it's time to recover and move to that state as quickly as possible and not be in this middle state otherwise. But our job is to mobilize, organize, get the vote out from our communities.
Thank you so much. Let's stop this damn Thank you so much. That's right. That's right.
Okay, well, thank you all very much. At this time, I'd like to bring up Roger Lau, Alex Wong, Nadia Belkins, I don't, yeah. We were going to do a slight shift just now. I was going to do a panel, but we're running a little bit over time, so I'm going to, at this point, I'd like to introduce Roger Lau. I could take a whole day to introducing him, but let me just tell you that he is the Deputy Executive Director for the DNC. That means he's the number 2 person in the entire Democratic National Committee, the highest ranking Asian American, on the staff of the DNC. But the reason I wanted to make that point is that representation matters, absolutely matters. I have been working, being a volunteer, super volunteer of the DNC since 2001, when I was first appointed. And ever since I became a chair, one of the things that I ask every time that we have a change in administration, if you will, is 3 things. I want people, I want money, and I want communications, money for our media. And throughout the years, the answers I get, yes, Belle, sure. And I start jumping up and down, and I get some, but not a whole lot. It isn't until this man came along that he heard us, because he knows us, he knows our issues. And most importantly, I want to share with you, I really want to do a brag on him. Ever since he came on board, we had more than 35 Asian American on the staff. I think it's actually increased.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it's increased. And what he does is he does it, it's intentionally, but it is in such a natural way that say, but of course, as talents. But guess what? We're represented. It is this man, and I love him.
Love you too.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to be brief because I know we're over time, but just a shout out to Ma Bell. She is the highest ranking Asian American in the DNC, and all the work that we do, we're standing on your shoulders, right? So thank you, Bell. But as Bell has said, representation matters, and it matters for a variety of reasons. Bell, I'm proud to let you know that number is way more than 35. Yeah, yeah. So between the DNC, Wilmington, HFP, in the States, and the convention, I think we have over 120 or so Asian Americans across every single department, up and down, department heads, advanced scheduling, policy, communications, everywhere. Also, shout out to Vanessa from our communications team, who's filming right now over at the DNC.
The first time I came to the DNC, we had 1.
Is that right? Yeah. But that matters. That matters not only because, number one, we have really talented people in our community that want to contribute to the DNC and the Democratic cause. But having people who have that lens in a variety of positions helps us become better, helps us make sure we're serving the community better and the party better. There are 2 people who are the tip of the spear that I want to make sure that we shout out. Alex Wong is our API director of the DNC. And Nadia is leading our effort overall with HFP. She came on with Biden. She created an organization, nonprofit, not nonprofit. What is that? Super PAC or 501c4? Asian Power Network, right? Yeah. And from the organization, headed up and decided to come over to the campaign, and we could not be more proud. And the reason why all that matters, the work that we do with our community, it can't just be incidental, right? It has to be intentional. And every single day, they make sure every single department within the campaign does this work intentionally. So I want to make sure that you guys, the best thing you can do to be helpful, take their calls. When they text you, return them. they're the ones who are leading the way, and I'm following too. So thank you for all you do.
I know a lot of the electeds had already had to leave because of other commitments, but I wanted intentionally to do a roll call of all of the elected elected members. And I'm going to bring my Senator, Clarence Lamb from Maryland, and Representative Longtran from Georgia. Please, take it away.
All right, we're going to roll call the elected officials and ask them to come up to the front because we would not have an AAPI event without photos. So we're going to go through this very quickly. We have, and you've heard from some of these folks, the Honorable Chantel Wong, the Honorable Nani Coloretti, the Honorable Raj Punjabi. We also have Assembly Member Grace Lee from the state of New York. We have Mike Yin, the Minority Floor Leader from Wyoming. We have Mr. Otto Lee, Santa Clara County Supervisor. Iwan Chu, New York State Senator. Jay Chaudhuri, the North Carolina State Senator. Jerome Lee, Standing Committee of Massachusetts. Tyler Dos Santos Tam, Honolulu City Council. Cal Lee from the Green Bay School Board in Wisconsin. And I'll hand it over to Representative Long Tran.
All right. We've got Kian Jung from the Board of Directors of Portland Community College. Lisa Cow from County Legislator, Dutchess County. Michelle Wu, Mayor of Boston. Sarah Freeman, Executive Committee of EC Mayors. Enka Mosca, Assemblywoman of Nevada. Zui Nguyen, Assemblyman of Nevada. Kevin Thomas, State Senator of Nevada. Cham Nguyen, State Representative of Massachusetts. Kenny Nguyen, Council Member of Broomfield, Colorado. Tui Dow Jensen, School Board, Brentwood, California. Khadijah Gaz, Congressional District 1, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Ty Penserga, Mayor of Boynton, Florida, and Frank Aurelio Yokoyama, Council Member of Cerritos, California. Please come up. If there's anyone that we missed that's elected, please come up, please join us.
We also have Luce Bay, representative of New Hampshire.
And